So we are an app that allows e-commerce stores to set up and run customer referral programs, which is a really easy way to acquire new customers and while retaining your existing ones. So one of the ways that I like to put this is, it's basically a way to turn your customers into your marketing team. Your customers trust you; they trust you so much that they're willing to spend money for your products. So they're good ambassadors too. So we help with that.
Awesome. And what trends have you guys been seeing in the current landscape?
So, I mean, there's obviously some clear winners, at least in the kind of like the first weeks of this whole thing, kind of how everything unfolded. But food companies, especially those that are kind of like farm to table, those that sell like home equipment for gym equipment or like home office, those we've seen tremendous growth on those companies. It's probably too early to tell what's going to happen. Everything's changing pretty quickly. But we also see that a lot of customers are starting to look into customer retention. We come from a phase in which probably customer acquisition was one of the main drivers for marketing departments out there. But now, because of the situation, we're starting to look at, okay, well, I have these pool of customers. How can I incentivize them to come back to my store? And so I feel like a lot of brands are, in general, no matter really what industry they're working on, they're starting to look into ways to leverage their own customer base, whether it's for retention or for, I mean, what we see here at ReferralCandy, to acquire more customers from their existing base.
Absolutely. We've got like a slide here with some statistics. So increasing customer retention by 5% increases profits by 25 to 95%. So the Spain & Co. and also Harvard Business School as well had similar statistics, which is pretty staggering, really. Like that you can, just from that 5%, that you can have such a huge amount of profit.
Yeah. So, sorry.
So obviously, why is retaining customers and focusing on customer loyalty and advocacy so important for right now and this kind of current situation that we're in?
Yeah, I mean, the slide before explained it perfectly. I mean, in the sense that once you have a customer that comes back to your store and buys for the second time, third time, those customer acquisition costs, they're already paid for. You don't need to pay again to acquire that customer. So that's one of the really good things about that. The margin, it's a lot higher in that case. And I mean, it's just a way of kind of like increasing. I mean, if you put strategies in place to keep those customers coming back to you, at the end of the day, I mean, the lifetime value of that customer, it decreases. And you can really see a difference in your margins, which is at the end of the day what everybody's looking at right now. I mean, in times like this, in which companies are starting to cut some costs or looking into like where are we spending money on. If at the same time while you're cutting costs and maybe you didn't really need that much, but at the same time you're increasing your margins, puts you in a way better financial situation, which can really make a difference for any company these days.
And I'd read somewhere that it was split between it would cost between 5 and 7 times the amount to basically go out and get a new customer compared to keeping the customer that you already have.
I mean, of course, like think about not even like the traditional sales funnel, but for B2B, but in e-commerce, just look at the conversion rates. We're looking at what, like 4 or 5% of your customers, visitors will potentially turn into customers. I mean, once you have a customer that you can sell to again, it just makes a lot more sense if that's something that your product allows you to do. Because obviously, not every e-commerce store has a product that they can resell to customers after a certain period of time.
So I mean, obviously, from varying company to company, all of the benchmarks are going to be different. But what would you recommend as some of the key retention and advocacy kind of KPIs for e-commerce brands that they should be looking at?
I mean, the main one that I will look at, it's basically see how many times are your customers coming back, or what's the percentage of customers that keep coming back to your store to buy for the second, third time. So one of them is the repeat customer rate, which is basically number of customers that have bought at least 2 times or more, divided by the total, which is the number of customers that have bought from you at least once. And that should give you kind of an idea of what percentage of your customers are repeat customers, and identify them also in terms of like what makes them different from the rest. If they have any sort of administrative characteristic of these customers, and once you kind of find that out and find out your ideal persona of how does my repeat customer look like, you can put strategies, marketing actions in place to keep them coming back. And then another one will be just your purchase frequency. So that will be number of orders divided by unique customers. That can give you an idea of, I mean, it's kind of similar to the one I mentioned before, but it gives you an idea of what's usually the ratio between orders and clients that you have in a certain field.
So for repeat customer rate, it's who's purchased plus twice, like more than twice, divided by the total customers who made one or more purchase.
Yeah, exactly.
For people like me who are pretty useless at maths, it's always good to just have the recap.
I'm horrible at it.
I mean, so obviously, although things are somewhat, obviously unknown, a bit scary, a challenge, I think is a fair way of putting it. There are always opportunities, and that's some of the conversations we've been having over the past few weeks. Really, obviously, trying to highlight and find opportunities for companies in the current situation. So, what would you say are the potential real opportunities for brands at the moment?
Yeah. So, I mean, actually, one of them is, I mean, it's a situation right now in which, I mean, there's a lot of things going on, but one of the most interesting things that I feel like is happening is that, so there's a lot of brands that are probably at least reducing their budget on how much they spend on, let's say, social media ads, for example. But at the same time, we have a lot of people, probably more than ever, on social media, or just like online, basically. So there's an opportunity there as well, and there's people that's at home, like we can still buy from home. That it's I don't know the rest of where people are watching from, but at least here, the only physical stores that you can go to are supermarkets, pharmacies, and that's pretty much it. But if you want to get anything else, e-commerce is there. So that's one of the things that if you work in an industry in which you can still deliver, there's still an opportunity out there, because again, we're online probably more than ever. And so that's one opportunity that I definitely see. And then something that we've actually been looking at for a while at ReferralCandy, ways that we can partner our customers together with each other. So that's something that, I mean, we've done it. We're doing it right now. That's something I personally love doing, which is partnering with other brands, and other companies that are working in similar industry. And that's why we're here. But between brands, e-commerce brands, that's also something that they can definitely start looking at, because they can kind of join forces and go after a similar customer persona, and go with an offer that whether it's like promoting products to each other's page, or like maybe doing some sort of like joint offer. That's something that could work pretty well. I also see some opportunities now. A lot of companies are putting together like kind of like shop small type of promotions or incentives to help small businesses to get in front of more people. And so I think it was Privy who put together a website called shopsmallecom.com. I guess we can put it on the comments later. But they actually did a really good job at promoting. So there you go. That's the one. So if you're in a small e-commerce store, you can submit your store and they can feature you there. And so they're promoting. Yeah, okay. So it was Privy. I can confirm that. And they're doing a really good job by putting this in front of a lot of people, which is basically kind of like having a new channel to sell from. So that's great. And then another opportunity that I would say, just kind of like use this maybe slow time for most brands to reconnect with customers again. I see a lot of brands doing around, especially a lot of like really big brands. Some of them not really doing a good job at connecting with people. Like you can still feel the marketing message behind, like it's not they're talking about tough times. They're talking about
Mm.
how things are going, but you can tell that behind there's not not a lot of feeling. But I also see a lot of brands doing it very, very well. I have an example of a brand. They're actually here from Spain, um, and so it's actually called minimalist or minimalism, and they sell like t-shirts, they sell wallets, that kind of thing. And one of the things that they've always kind of like had this message of only buy what you need. So even during Black Friday and Cyber Monday, they offer promotions for the products, but they still said, look, but if you don't need it, don't buy it. So and I think it's a pretty honest approach, and they actually follow the same thing with this. Like they said, look, our products are not a priority right now. Like you know, it's okay. We're here. We'll still get in touch with you and that kind of thing. But you probably don't need our products. So I thought it was a pretty smart approach. So if you can find a way to reconnect with your customers in a way that it's honest, I mean, which is obviously, I mean, it shouldn't even be a recommendation, but yeah, if you can find a way to get in touch with your clients and be close, yeah, that's definitely helpful.
I also sometimes think just looking at your own personal habits I mean, although obviously you might not be your ideal, customer, but like you can very much see that like we are all falling into these trends in terms of like you were saying, obviously being online much more. I mean, I joined TikTok, which I was like, I never thought I would do. And I'm definitely one of those people who has been laughed at for being a millennial and is like late to the party. But, like I'm looking for more content. I'm looking for more fun distractions, whatever it is. I'm just reaching out online to find whatever I need through social media. And then also I've noticed like my husband buying all of a sudden like loads of kitchen products that, just things for like, oh, we needed a soap dispenser. And I'm like, I don't know how, trying to figure out like how much we do need these things, but also having the time to come round to actually purchase these things that perhaps we just kind of forget about when you're like not at home all the time, when you're off in the office and distracted and don't feel like, you need these things. So I think sometimes it's interesting just to look at your own habits to then perhaps find inspiration for your customers. They aren't so different from yourself.
Yeah, and also talking about the kind of like the changes that we've seen in markets or different industries. You just brought one up that it makes a lot of sense. In the sense that I mean we're at home now, so now we all of a sudden have time for all the projects that we didn't have time for before. So I've seen. I mean, it's interesting. Like one of the industries that has grown the most in the past three weeks here in Spain is stores that deliver like paint and like products for like appliances at home, like remodeling and that kind of thing. So people are all the time like, oh yeah, I really need to paint my house. Like so it's interesting how these things are changing. We'll see if in a month we're still buying paint and looking to remodel our houses. But the same way, I think another opportunity for brands kind of outside of personal life and kind of going back on how to grow, how to work on your brand during these times is all those projects that you had in mind, like long-term plans that you needed time to work on, maybe it's a good opportunity to use this like slow time to work on those. Like for example, brands that have always relied on channels on different channels for customer acquisition, but never got into content marketing. Well, maybe this is a good time to start looking into that because it's something that's going to pay off in the future anyway, and that requires work over time. So projects like that, I feel like it's probably a good, like using this slow time to work on things that will pay off after this whole thing ends, because it will. So.
And that's it, right? Because it will come to an end. Eventually, obviously, right now we're kind of in the thick of it. But I think that's just a great point, really, of what we should be working on right now, looking ahead to beyond COVID-19.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if there's one thing that I would 100% focus on, is content marketing and just SEO in general. Kind of, at the end of the day, it's going back to what works, going back to the basics, and so build your email list. Again, put your content out there, promote your content, acquire backlinks. Like the whole deal, which is again, it's a long term strategy. You're not going to see results anytime soon, but also you probably don't need results anytime soon. So you have time to work on that until this whole thing is over, and by the time it finishes, you'll probably be in a stronger position because you dedicated that time to position yourself better on Google. I mean, if there's something that's definitely not going to change after this is Google. And like I said, we're online more than ever these days, and we're definitely, we're using our technology out here, and it's, it's a good opportunity to position yourself better for when this whole thing is over. Maybe you can, even get ahead of your competition by positioning yourself better on Google. So.
And so, yeah, you mentioned SEO, of course. So that's really, why would you say that's more important than ever?
I mean, I would say it's more. I mean, I would say it's extremely important in general as a strategy, because I mean the quality of the customers that you can acquire through content marketing and SEO. I feel like it's significantly better than other channels, just because these are people that are looking for you anyway. They just couldn't find you before. Now you're just making it easier for them to find you. And so overall, I think it's a really good strategy. I mean, it's something that ReferralCandy would done from the very beginning, and it's one of our key areas. Um, and of course, yeah, and there's, especially in e-commerce, there's a ton of competition. And so if you can somewhat control one channel, and how people see you, how people find you, I mean, that's the upside for that. It's huge. And the other reason why I think it's a good opportunity is because, again, because of the times that we're facing right now. If there's a lower volume of orders, if there's less like routine work to do compared to the same month last year, but then it's probably useful to use those hours to something that's gonna pay off, because it will.
Absolutely. And of course, like, this isn't kind of our first rodeo, although obviously Corona is something kind of, we've never obviously had a pandemic like this before, but we have, of course, gone through previous crises. So what do you feel like we've learned from those past experiences that kind of will help us, or are helping us at the moment?
So I would like to share a link with the audience, maybe after the live session is done, because there's a really good case study that I read a few years ago, about HubSpot and how they dealt with the 2008 crisis. They not only survived it, but they actually grew their business during that recession. And I think that recession was pretty different from this one, in the sense that was, I was going to say, a traditional financial crisis. I mean, it's totally unprecedented. Um, but it, but at the end of the day, it was affecting their customers in the same way. Businesses were going bankrupt, or they were cutting costs, and one of the first costs that was going out of the window was whatever tool they were using for content marketing, which I think that was the only thing that HubSpot did back then. It was just a content marketing tool, as far as I remember. Um, so a lot of customers were in a situation in which they were very likely to churn. And so one of the things that they did is that they use their data to analyze who will be the customers that were more likely to churn, and when. And so they could get ahead of those potential cancellations and proactively reach out to customers and say, hey, like, they will analyze their accounts and be like, hey, actually, we think that you could get more of your existing account, if use this feature, or like the renegotiated plans with customers that, again, were very likely to churn. But they put most of the focus on that, on educating customers on how to get the most out of their accounts, and at the end of the day, potentially making more money from the subscription that they have on HubSpot. I mean, that was the key. And again, so there's a really good article. I think it was on Harvard Business Review, about this. And yeah, it'll be great to share with the audience after this, because it explains what HubSpot did, and it's not rocket science. At the end of the day, it was more like proactively reach out to customers and say, hey, how can we help? Or, look, we found this way that we can help you, or we noticed that you're not using this and that, and this is how you can actually improve your experience with HubSpot. So that is something that I thought it was really smart, and I mean, the situation is similar enough that a lot of brands could use that.
Yeah, Totes, we'll share those links in the chat just below where you're watching this video, so you can check them out. They're two really great articles, and it's kind of strange because obviously one, I think, is like from 2014 and one's from 2016, and they absolutely still apply to now. And I feel like the HubSpot article, brings up some really interesting points just in terms of even of like, during a time like this, what motivates a company, what motivates the workers, what motivates sales, like, and some of the bonuses of that. It's not always just difficult and hardship and struggle, and it's kind of like sometimes making things more simplistic, or sometimes just really lighting a fire underneath people to figure out exactly what their customer needs and give them nothing but what they need. So it's a really, really great article. Thanks for sharing those, and we'll get that added to the link so that people can check those out. Well, we've also got, just to tease ahead, a webinar that is coming up with yourself and Steph, who is from our Guerrilla Growth Collective team. She works on our community advocacy team here, and on the 6th of May at 9 a.m. Pacific time, you're going to be doing a webinar on navigating uncertainty, tips for digital marketers. Let me just open that. There we go. So this will be on the 6th of May. You're covering kind of some of the topics we will have been touching on today, but also some extended chat as well around adapting for digital marketing and cost-effective channels, as well as growing your community. So we're definitely really looking forward to that. How do people sign up for this webinar?
Yeah, we'll share a link to the registration page. I don't think it's up on, but anyway, on ReferralCandy.com we have a page that's called resources, and then from there there's a page to our webinar, upcoming webinars. So we'll post it there shortly. I'll actually probably do that today. But yeah, we could probably just put the link to the webinar here in the comments after this.
There's going to be a whole bounty of links connected to this chat today for sure. So we'll add that link for the webinar. We'll also add those 2 additional different articles that Raoul had recommended into the chat as well. Thank you so much for joining me today and chatting about why customer relationships are key to surviving and thriving. Really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. I've just got some information here for how people can get in touch with you, or also, of course, ReferralCandy have an awesome selection of blogs. So if anybody is looking for resources on customer referrals or and advocacy, then of course check out ReferralCandy, and on their website they have a blog post there. But people can reach out to you via email as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. So I'll leave that there for people to take a little look. Awesome. Thank you so much, Raoul.